Hello and welcome to the Inventure interview series. I'm Ted George, founder and chief narrative officer of Kleos Advisory, and today I'm going to explore the latest innovation in fund management, middle office as a service. For many managers setting up their first funds, putting in place a middle office is an afterthought. But if they're going to effectively identify and mitigate the risks, meet their regulatory and reporting requirements, and most importantly, keep the investors happy and on side, then having a middle office is critical to their success.
We noticed a gap in terms of putting technology to use to be able to scale up and bring costs down to especially provide fund managers and especially first-time fund managers in Africa. The average fund in Africa is $50 to $100 million. That gets very costly. Right? That's not enough scale to provide all the other services, which we'll talk about separately. So we saw a gap there, and taking advantage of our banking backgrounds, banking many of those firms in the past, and we noticed that they weren't necessarily institutional grade infrastructure. So we're bringing that banking experience to put through to whole systems in an industry which has probably been a bit more lighter touch. Yeah, well, they're very excited, and they're really getting getting their LPs and their investor base lined up, and that's going at full speed. And then all of a sudden they realize they've got to have all these other services in place, and so that then starts to create operational delays because they're not set up necessarily to do that. They're investment managers, and it's a level of detail and continuous process which you have to invest in that. So if they don't, then they get what they'll get structural fragility. It'll look good for a while, it can last for a while, but when something really goes wrong or they most need to be able to scale up and they can't. So that's where we come in, a combination of the middle office with the right amount of technology and expertise to make sure that they can always deliver all the operational analytics, reporting analytics, the compliance analytics, all the data that LPs increasingly need. Right. Well, we're working on that right now on two fronts with first-time fund manager. And basically, the fund was trying to set up its operations in Mauritius. They were going to try and hire a full-time person. They couldn't find someone. They couldn't find the right skills or at the right price. And it came to my attention, and I looked at it and said, well, we could do that on an interim basis. And that created the whole genesis of the middle office as a service. So we've now got a person, a very skilled chief operating officer from a lot of funds in South Africa, who is leading that, supported by our team in Mauritius. In fact, just yesterday, we were speaking with a very experienced fund manager out of South Africa. It's got 3 funds. At that level, they probably have a very sophisticated in-house CFO. Unfortunately, this CFO is leaving, and they're scrambling, and so it was brought to our attention. So it's not just an interim chief operating officer, because a lot of the work on fund administration is the accounting piece, so we can provide an interim CFO role as well. It's all done through using AI and automating as much things as we can. But we also have to put human judgment in there as well, especially in regulated businesses. So we put human touch points in at all the right aspects to take those right decisions. And so Mauritius was very experienced as a fund administration business for India and Asia flows. And it's now turned into be an absolute gateway. So much the flows that are going into Africa are now domiciled, structured Mauritius. We've got 40 plus 44 tax treaties with various African countries and India. We've got English common law and French civil law, rule of law. For big funds, it's very comforting to know that their final court of appeal will be the Privy Council here in London. So that allows them to run very, very significant amounts of money. And know they've got rule of law. They've got a tried and tested jurisdiction, which has been doing this for 30 years. So I would say be prepared. Think about these things in a much more proactive way. It's not a back office function anymore. It's middle office is value added, and it's very heavily driven by tech with good judgment around it.